Okay. Yeah, so it came up like at the literal last second before I could start. There we go. A bit delayed, but well, yeah, no. I started on time. I started at 10:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I was on time, just by a couple seconds. But anyways, I have a feeling that this is going to be a a quieter stream. It's not going to be crazy. Hey, Antonio, or hey, Oshi. I guess I may as well introduce it. Welcome, everyone, to Sea Monster Live, episode 63. Now watch this movie. That's perfectly fine. If you want to stick around and listen to spoilers if you don't really care or not, then I don't know. Yeah. We're going to be talking about a new movie that came out past weekend called The Bride! Exclamation mark. It's a new movie from Maggie Gyllenhaal, who directed it. I think she also wrote it. Yeah, actually, yeah, she wrote and directed it. And it just got Jesse Buckley and Christian Bale playing both the bride and the Frankenstein monster, respectively. So, yeah, that's kind of what we're going to be talking about. This movie did not do well financially. Like people are already like saying this movie's a bomb and whatever. I kind of understand that. To credit, like yeah, like the movie had like an 85-90 million dollar budget or somewhere in that neighborhood, and apparently globally it only made like 20 million, and that might be highballing. So that's on opening weekend. That's pretty sad. That's like really that's oy vey. Um, but I will say after watching the movie, I kind of understand that because boy, it's a bit of a mixed bag here. Yeah, I'll be surprised if like anybody like Hoshi's the MVP here, like hopping in, chiming in, clocking in to these streams essentially. Um, but yeah, I don't think anybody else is gonna be on here. I don't even know if like most people will even be aware that this movie came out already. So I wouldn't. Yeah, I'm not too surprised if this will be one of those strains where I'm just sort of talking into the void, really, unless other people show up. But anywho, yeah, The Bride. I went and saw it yesterday, and suffice to say, there's things about the movie that that I liked, like even if it's conceptually speaking. But the problem though is that this film it's got a lot on its mind. It wants to do so much, but it can't really seem to do exceedingly well at most of them, really. Like the film kind of has the whole Bonnie and Clyde angle with Frankenstein's monster and the Bride of Frankenstein. Like it's kind of going that route. And I will say, like, I've seen like the Bonnie and Clyde movie from the '60s, I believe. I think it starred Warren Beatty, and it was like years ago. Like I read it in Family Video, I think, or caught on TV. I can't really remember the details per se, but that movie. I mean, like I remember thinking that movie was pretty neat overall. Maybe it wasn't like the best thing in the world, but that was a kind of a neat movie. So doing that, but with the angle of Frankenstein's monster and his bride could work, theoretically speaking. Like it would be an interesting angle to take with the Bride of Frankenstein concept. where where like a woman was killed, and so she's brought back to be the monster's bride, and they kind of like go on some big old murderous escapades, what have you. Um, and there's like a bit of complexity in terms of like the bride just like wondering who she was in a past life, what have you, or who she even is, you know. And the monster kind of like having to try to deal with that, with try to like have to like juggle with that sort of that moral quandary, perhaps, despite the fact that he's just been the reason why he had the bride created for him was due to his loneliness. There's a there's a neat idea there, and I'd say that this movie does it reasonably well, like relatively well. Um, the problem though is like it's fleshed out fairly well in the first half of the movie, but then like by the halfway point, it kind of like it gets a bit lost in the execution because of everything else that the movie tries to do, everything else that the movie tries to introduce, essentially, like the feminism angle or the angle of like corruption, or like how women were like oppressed by like men of power, or corruption within a system that allows like people that allows unscrupulous people to abuse that power, in order to appease themselves in a way. There's the whole detect the angle of like two detectives like tracking down the monster and the bride, trying to find them, figure out what's going on, what have you. Even having like one of the detectives having had a history of the woman who would become the bride. There's like there it's like, and you also have like a whole a subplot involving a mob boss who wants the bride as well, try to get her killed. Um yeah, like this movie is trying to do a lot, as well as be like a very stylistic film that has like that sort of like deals with the bride even having a bit of a split multiple personalities thing, which includes I may as well just get into it, which includes the author of Frankenstein herself, Mary Shelley, which, and the fact that she get like the woman who would become the bride at the start of the movie, she gets possessed by Mary Shelley at one point, and it gets like in the film like has it addressed to where Mary Shelley is an entity, or a person, or like a soul, a spirit that is like having some level of influence of the bride and even like the world around her to an extent. And like I'll go a bit more details about that, but it's like the execution of like a lot of these elements beyond the Bonnie and Clyde angle with Frankenstein's monster and his bride, it like really hampers the movie in such a significant way. To the point where it kind of the film almost like because like a lot of these like angles that the movie tries to go at are like really undercooked. Um, in some ways, like the feminism angle, it's like it's overdone, but also underdone at the same time. Like it's a weird paradox. It's like you have characters like paying lip service to the injustices that women go through at that period in the 1930s, with the corruption, what have you, that's like abusing it. It's play power over those women. But when the film like the film never really goes into like how this suddenly this big feminist movement that the bride sort of like started, like how that spread. Like like the film doesn't even do anything like that. It's kind of like it's a thing that just kind of happens, and it's not even like it has like that much of a meaningful effect on the main story, really. Um, like if anything, like it only ties in with one of the other elements, which is the mob boss subplot, but in a way that's like way too little, way too late. And I mean, like the whole thing with the mob boss who has like an MO where he kills women and who were like, I guess, like mob call girls, which Ida, who becomes the bride, was one of them. He cuts out their tongues, and that's like an MO. That's like a bit of exposition, and with him just to make him like, oh, he's that much more fucked up, and why he needs to get what he deserves. Why what he gets at the end is what he fucking deserves, pretty much. Except, it happened. That whole thing pays off in like the very end of the movie, and I mean like when the credits start, it's like while the end credits are rolling is when that bit gets resolved, and when that ties back in with the feminist movement thing, and it just doesn't. It is so sloppy. It's almost like the mob boss thing was like an afterthought that they could have just cut out of the movie entirely, and not only would you kind of more or less have the same movie, but with but with like one less character potentially or two. But also, like the film would be all the better for it because it would make for a much tighter narrative. Like that would actually give us like a little more extra, even like some extra time, essentially saved up for to actually like develop like one of these other things that this movie's trying to do. Um, yeah, that it just doesn't. Yeah, like there's a lot about this movie that's like that I'm just kind of baffled by. The only thing that it sort of ties back is like there's a scene where the bride like actually just bites the tongue off of like a police officer who kind of pulled her and the monster in Frankenstein over in the road when he's like getting too when he's like getting too frisky while frisking her, let's just say. Um that's and I guess that's meant to be like a weird like a sort of like an inversion of sorts from what the mob bus does to women. I think. Um but it's just like, okay, that's a angle, I guess. That's a way to tie that back in, sure. I'm not even sure what the hell I'm even supposed to do with that beyond just say, okay, parallels, question mark. um, yeah, I pretty much, yeah, okay, so this is going to be a bit more of a rambly type of stream, I suppose. Um, so yeah, like the film pretty much opens with a narration from Mary Shelley, who is also played by Jesse Buckley. And I would say like Jesse Buckley does a great job, like essentially switching between the two personalities, in a way. Like, and it makes them all very distinct. Like she has the English accent going on when she's portraying Mary, um, and then the more Americanized way of speaking when she's doing Ida, or like the bride. And it actually like yeah, and she definitely throws her all into this role, um where she's like really where she's kind of like just unsure of the world around her, where she's sort of like where like she's even like a bit weird and off kilter, um and that actually works pretty well. Like and she ends up being much more of a firecracker compared to her groom, Frankenstein monster, who is referred to in the movie as Frankenstein, who since he's like adopted his father's name at this point, or Frank, um, who is much more soft spoken. He's because of the fact that he's been and a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's sort of walking the earth for over 100 years, and he's kind of just sort of Like he sort of like found like a bit of routine for himself, like watching like his favorite movies starring his favorite actor, who's played by Jake Gyllenhaal, as like an escape, a bit of escapism, as like a what have you. Um, but he's still like eaten up inside by loneliness essentially because like I mean, I mean considering like who he is or what he is, it's kind of painful to him, the thought of that he could just go on living in a world alone essentially and not have any sort of companionship, like a meaningful companionship. It killed him. And Chris, and but then like at some point later in the film when he has the bride, um and like you pretty much have the bride who has like the split personality thing going on, where when Mary Shelley like sort of takes over, she like sees like a man like sort of like a guy just sort of like make trying to make out with his girl, and she's like, "Yo, stop! Don't do that!" Like in the middle of a movie theater, um, during a showing of a White Zombie, and then she's all like, "He told you no." um, yeah, like the whole feminism angle. It's like I appreciate what the movie's trying to do, essentially, like or what it's trying to say. Like I pretty much get it, but I would say like it really does pour it on very thick. I mean, like let me just put it this way: it pours on thick in a way where the plot really just it just makes it seem unnecessary at points. Like the first instance where something like that happens, where after Frank and Ida like leave the club, like this nightclub, essentially, and they're followed by two rowdy guys who are trying to like get up and try to get in Ida's pants, essentially try to do things with her, or that I won't specifically say, you know. But yeah, and then her and Frank they sort of fight them off, and Frank just essentially brutally kills them, curb stopping one of them, to the point where his head's basically mush, and they're like caught on camera. Since like, well, someone takes a picture of them, like witnessing it, and so they become fugitives of the law as a result. Um, like that first instance of like sort of like how men at that time like would abuse their power, like that was like like it was at least had a purpose in terms of like kicking off the rest of the movie, plot wise. But then you have the whole thing with that police officer that pulls her over, or that little bit in the movie theater, and like neither of those really like it just seemed like you could have done without either of those. Like the movie theater one, even like I it's kind of like a neat homage to like the creature feature sort of stuff from back in the day, from back in the 30s and 40s, which this film is obviously homaging somewhat in that sense. But to the point where there are times where Frank and Ida, or Ida, even sort of like replace like some of the characters that are like in the movie on the screen in universe, but it's like a stylistic thing. It's not actually happening, but it's like in a stylistic sense, like with White Zombie, where they both act like zombies essentially in that weird sort of dreamlike state, because they're like in a horror movie sort of style. Or when Frank like sort of daydreams about himself being Jake Gyllenhaal's like actor character on the big screen, dancing around. It's like homage to Young Frankenstein, like them putting on the Ritz musical number that's just iconic, quite frankly. I mean, but then they overdo that. They even overdo that when suddenly Frank, like there's like a dance number that happens, and Frank, then like blurts out, "Putting on the Ritz." It's like, oh, okay, yeah. It's like at first it was just like, "Hey, putting on the Ritz." but then as I'm now, I'm just thinking about it. I'm like, was that necessary? Like, why did they? Why put that in there? Why haven't say okay? Um, and like you got that dance number that takes place in the banquet or someplace like that in like a world with like fancy people. The fact that Frank and the bride are able to just sneak right in, even though the fact that they should just stick out like the sorest of sore thumbs. Not just in terms of like body odor, really, but also just the fact that like the way they look, the way they're dressed. I know with the sort of like the black splotches that she kind of gets when that kind of like permanently stain her skin when she like first wakes up. 'Cause she's like coughing out like black gunk, because she was dead before she got resurrected, obviously. Um, but also like Frank, the fact that he's like cover has like a bandana like covering his mouth to try to hide his scarring and what have you, his stitches. Um, he would certainly just stand out just because he's like this big motherfucker, like who just like not all the scars and stitches are hidden. By the way, I want to make that clear. Like they both stick out like sore thumbs in terms of like because they like try to grab refreshments, like they're pretending to be like the staff members in the place, but they have a specific. But the staff members have a specific work uniform in that setting. So they're not going to stick. So somebody would call them out before Frank would even so much as get to his idol, essentially. Like he would have been stopped before then, before he would have that try to have like that conversation um with Jake Gyllenhaal. He would have been stopped before he even got to him. And thus we wouldn't have this whole dance number sequence, which then wouldn't result in Peter Sarsgaard suddenly recognizing Ida, the bride, because he thought that she was dead. But since the opening scene in the movie, understandably so, because she did die, but now she's brought back. Um, and we wouldn't have like this whole standoff scene that takes place that kicks off the feminism movement. It's there's so much about this that just makes you go, what the fuck? Okay. um so you got that. You have Peter Sarsgaard and Penelope Cruz, like they have their whole thing going on where Penelope Cruz wants to get like the credit for actually doing the work, while Peter Sarsgaard's kind of like, since he's the man in the pick between the two, like he gets more the attention, what have you, of doing the work, the detective work. And so, but then later on, um, as like events start to unfold more and more, where he kind of realizes about Ida, what have you, and tries to reach her, essentially, he starts like he has feels like a bit of guilt about what happened to her, and so he resigns from the police force, and he has Penelope Cruz be detective, and that's supposed to pay off when she sort of like steps in after the whole big Bonnie and Clyde climax with the big shoot 'em up. She's all like, "They're dead. All right, guys, leave the room. We need this is evidence. I'm the detective." Like, so this is a crime scene, so and by the way, check out the fire escape for that one guy who just like went down, who works for the mob boss, who is basically played by the president of Moravia from James Gunn's shitty Superman movie. um, so yeah, that's a thing. That's that's kind of a thing going on. Um, mm, yeah, like as far as like the whole journey that Frank and Ida sort of go on, where they sort of like have the developing romance, what have you. It's kind like it is kind of neat where they both, like even though like they've killed people, like Frank sort of like killed the two guys like in self defense essentially, or at least like how he would view as self defense. Ida also kind of more or less does the same as well. Although hers, like it. it's when she like kills a police officer off a train, so there's that. Um, and she's all like, I can't remember her name, and it's like understandable because like Frank doesn't really have an answer of like who she actually is. Like they just dug her up. But then again, like she has a headstone. Like she would have something, some marker in her grave over her grave to suggest like who she is, who she was. Um, Maybe I missed it in the movie. Maybe, like there should like maybe it's an unmarked grave, perhaps, which could be the case. But it's but you'd think that that would have been like that it would get marked at least because Peter Sarsgaard would try to be like, she has a name, by the way, or something like that. Or I mean, there's like a pro. I get that, like, there's a whole process in terms of like how to bury somebody and how to mark their grave, what have you. But yeah, yeah, that's kind of strange. But either way, like like Frank, kind of like obfuscates like like her name essentially. Like, oh wait, well he doesn't even know that that's her name actually. So yeah, so he doesn't know that, and she's all like, did you know that I was Ida? Did you know what I was? Like he pretty much is all like, no, I don't like I don't love you because of your body. Like I love you because of your mind, essentially. And it's like like during the like during essentially during the climax of the movie where they try to where they both are able to sort of profess their love for each other before Frank gets shot in the head by the mob guy, which again, which here's the whole thing with the mob angle thing in the movie, the mobster subplot. Like aside from the opening, every like and even then you could slightly tweak it to where it was like somebody else who was like a corrupt a hole or somewhat. Um, you could literally have it to where it could have been like a corrupt officer, somewhat like shooting Frank. Like it wouldn't have to be the mob boss or the mobster the mob hitman essentially tracking who's been tracking Frank and Ida down. And like like that is like how like essentially useless the mob boss subplot really is in this movie. Um like it pretty much eats up time really. Um so you pretty much have that kind of going on. Um, yeah, and you also got that Annette Bening who plays like the Doctor Frankenstein type. Although I like the angle where she's actually much more reluctant about bringing the bride back, and she also becomes much more reluctant of bringing Frank back after he's killed, like towards the end of the movie when we come back to her, and she like and when but also like before that, like when she sees like how the bride whom she brought back essentially to give Frank a companion, a mate, um, is like has like started killing, starting a killing spree or what have you, and it's like started almost like a revolution. Like she's almost like a bit like Annette Bening is sort of like sitting there going, has like this sort of what have I done type of thing, which which the film doesn't really linger on all that much. It doesn't marinate on it really at all. I mean, like it's a nice little moment. I appreciate that it gave us that, but what we got, but it's not really. Just wish there was a little more of it. So yeah, there's just things about the movie that like that I want to praise more than I actually am able to. That I can really bring myself to. If I'm being honest. Like, the production design is really nice. So, the makeup for, the bride and especially for Frank, is pretty solid. Like, they're nice little, neat little modern spins on these classic characters, essentially. um, or at least like a style, like maybe not even. I don't want to say modern spin, like like a stylistic spin, where Frank is much more closer to the classic Boris Karloff roots, what have you, where he's got the flat, boxy head, and he's got like the staples and stitches and scars all over him. Um, but obviously, it's not exact like Boris Karloff, but it's like close enough to where you kind of see the influence, you see the homage. While the Bride of Frankenstein, or the Bride in this case, she kind of like she doesn't really resemble like the Bride of Frankenstein as we classically in terms of like the classic look, but in terms of like this sort of spin on her, this 1930s twist on her, I suppose. Like she still has like the little frizzed out, chaotic, wicked hair, like as if like she got jolted with electricity when she was brought back to life. Um, and she's got like her own sort of like sort of look, like with the blotches that kind of look like messed up lipstick, essentially, and the black tongue. There's a lot of details that are quite neat, and and the pale skin and what have you. It was neat details going on there, and I really appreciate it. That made me appreciate. And even with the issues I have with like that big dance number in the middle of the movie, like it's choreographed pretty well. Like it's kind of like Michael Jackson's Thriller in a way, which but which I could put with like a '30s jazzy twist. That that's pretty neat. Um, but um, then this sort of brings us to the whole thing with the spirit of Mary Shelley and her. Like the film, it seemed like the film wants to do like the stylistic thing that also ties in somewhat narratively, where Mary Shelley would occasionally have the bride just sort of like do things that are like beyond her control, like when she like sees some something messed up involving happening to women or what have you, or she hears about something messed up involving women, or remembering things that were messed up that happened with Ida potentially. Um, but then it just has it to where suddenly, when you have like that big dance number in the middle where Frank and the bride kind of do their like have that big dance number, suddenly everyone else does it. I like, as much as I like I did think that dance number was entertaining, it just, unfortunately, I can't help but sort of ask the question, like, so what is happening? Is it in their heads, or is Mary Shelley like having some kind of influence over everybody else to where they're even doing this, dancing like them, like Frank and the Bride? Like, what is happening here? Like, they're doing it against their will. Like, it's that weird, like, is fucking Chris Hemsworth from Ghostbusters like doing this to them? Like, what is happening? Like, oh god, I don't even want to imagine that. Like how is this like working per se? Really, like how is this like super like? I guess it mainly just pertains to like some of the world building, what have you. Like how does this like how does like the spirituality aspect in the film like even working here? Or are we meant to just sort of like, or is it supposed to be inside her head, or is it meant to just be like, shut up, go along with it? It's part of the style. Get over it. Or like, which that's probably the last one's probably most likely to be true. Um, given like how movies are made these days, how they're written these days, that may very well be the case. um, yeah, as well as like the whole thing of how the feminism thing, the movement going on, how that even started, how that was able to spread, how it was able to sort of like stay on track, essentially, how it was able to thrive even, and even get to the places that it was supposed to. Like the film just montages right through it just to get it over with, out the way, just to like to get across like the whole anger, towards the oppression that women go through, what have you. Um, yeah, it's just and Frank is also like sort of like as well as Peter Sarsgaard's character, who are meant to represent like the what essentially like the humility, what have you, that where you have like men who looks like, okay, not all men are evil, and they will be willing to sort of like call out bullshit that the others are doing, or perhaps, but not like like Peter Sarsgaard more overtly than Frank, essentially, like in a more spelled out way. Um, but yeah, like it's kind of strange, because like unlike because I hear the reference, the how this movie is a bit is compared to Joker, like the Todd Phillips movie from 2019, as well as Joker 2 as well. Because you got like the whole movement angle going on. Uh, to write down the fact that the cinematographer Lawrence Sher and the music composer Hilder Golandot, it's a real it's really long name, foreign. It's like, I mean, I can't even begin to try to figure out how to pronounce that name. But basically, same composer. Like this movie has both the same cinematographer and composer as the Joker movies. So so when people look at it and be like, "Oh, this will be like Joker 2019, but with Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein," and it's like, in a sense, but not quite. Um, like it is like you have like the movement thing going on, that is a thing in those movies, and you have like a bit of the musical dance number angle that we see in the second movie, as well as like perhaps the potential concept that Joker 2 could have tapped into, involving the Joker and Harley Quinn stuff, except the Bride actually does use that. It actually is about like, does the Bonnie and Clyde angle with Frankenstein's monster and the Bride. Um, as like like the Bride is essentially what Joker 2 would have been if it went like the more safe and expected route, as opposed to just the batshit insane routes that Todd Phillips and Warner Brothers, like, for some reason, you know, chose to do and were okay with doing, that nobody in their right mind would ever imagine like that movie in being. Even for a subversive as Joker 2019 was, like the fact that the sequel would just undermine and undo and just outright just destroy everything and every shred of goodwill that that first movie had going for it, that first movie was trying to do and actually was successful at doing. Um, yeah, well, yeah, The Bride is pretty much a better version, is like a better Joker 2 than Joker 2. I will just say that much, even though it's still not good. For what that may be worth, let me just say. Um, and even then, like, that's kind of where the comparisons sort of end, really. Like, this is just kind of a more of a Bonnie and Clyde type of movie with Frankenstein and her and the Bride. Um, except it's like it's trying to do a whole bunch of other things, have like other subplots and other thematics going on that aren't really developed or elaborated on all that much in in a significant enough way to say that the movie was worth that the endeavor of having all those other things. Like, if it was just a more straightforward Bonnie and Clyde type story, and you have like this, like like maybe even have it be a bit more artsy and more stylistic, where Frankenstein and the Bride are actually going out and doing their thing, and trying to like live in this world, that is unfortunately like that just rejects them, like that has rejected them essentially, because and they feel downtrodden to the point where they just have enough, and then they just go on big killing sprees, to kind of like try to prove a point, potentially, to where like, and they pretty much find like a romance within themselves, essentially, because of the fact that they have that common ground. um and they maybe even had some drama where the bride is kind of like trying to figure out who she even is, and how it's sort of like terrifies her that in this life she will never really understand who she was in a previous life. But she would be willing to sort of go on with living this new life with Frank. Like that's pretty much what this movie was trying to do, at least seemingly. Unfortunately, it's just overstuffed with really underdeveloped elements that, for all intents and purposes, just don't really seem to mesh together all that well in a cohesive whole. Um, which is a huge, huge shame. Um, because I do like I pretty much still want to believe that like a Frankenstein story can still be done well, and we've seen them be done well. We've seen them done well not just in the '30s films, not just in the first Hammer film with Peter Cushing or Christopher Lee, but with Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, like not even 6 months ago from today. Like that's all right, folks. Something just kind of sort of came up, but like anyways, yeah, like these you can still do Frankenstein pretty well, like, even for as much as like, oh, how many ways can you tell the same story over and over, what have you. It's like, well, it's like you can still do it well. You can still, like, because it's a classic story that's worth retelling and it's worth looking back into again and again, and even try to do a new twist on it, a new spin on it. um so long as it's done well, it can like you can actually there's viability there. It's just that unfortunately sometimes you get a movie like this that just doesn't really capitalize on that concept, having a new concept with the Frankenstein story all that well. As opposed to Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, which, say what you will about some of the angles that it tries to go on, it at least like fully commits to those thematics that movie was trying to do, and it actually executes them very well, when you look even deeper into it. Maybe find a bit more nuance beyond the whole thing of like, oh, Victor Frankenstein is just an asshole. He's the real monster. It's like a bit more nuance than that. And there is a bit of a recognition within the film itself. It's just that it doesn't spell it. It's just not as spelled out, really. You know, in this film, unfortunately, it doesn't have that kind of nuance. It doesn't have that, or when it does have that nuance, try to have that nuance, it's like too little, too late. And when it does try to have like more going on, more to say beyond that, it just like it still kind of falters at the end of the day. Like it's really there's a lot of undercooked concepts. Like I don't even think that this movie's. I wouldn't necessarily call this movie terrible. Really, I can understand why people would hate it. That's for sure. But I don't know. I wouldn't call this movie terrible, but I will say it's leaning closer to the bad side than good. If I were to say like that, I'm still quite mixed on this movie, um, which is a shame, really. So you kind of, yeah, yeah. I will say it's kind of an interesting choice to like. It's funny because like you have like these two, like the film even kind of undermines even another bit of world building. I just realized. like so you had like the idea where two monsters where like when you bring the body back, like they don't remember who they are in the past life essentially, or at least not right away. Um, but then like at the very end of the movie, the Annette Bening like sort of brings Frank and the bride back to life, you know, like she did for the bride earlier in the film. And they, and as they're being brought back, they start, they start clutching each other's hands essentially, and that's the pretty much the final shot of the movie. Aside from that whole thing tying the loose end with the mob boss, what have you, where Peter Sarsgaard lets a bunch of women in who try to kill him, to kind of like torture and kill him. Um, yeah, you kind of have that sort of going on. And there's also the whole thing of how. Anyways, well, like one last thing before we like I'm a bit all over the place. There's also the thing of how Ida or the bride like has the whole split personality thing, but it's like she not only has Mary Shelley, but it also seems like she's like naming off the names of other girls who were killed by the mob boss, who we never see. And it's like doesn't really add that much meaning to it because we never met these girls. We don't even see them on screen or anything. They're just mentioned. So it's like just more show. It's the movie's just telling us things rather than showing it. Um, which is something that like if you bring it up the comparisons to Joker 2019 does it pretty well. And when it does tell it, it actually does tell some of its thematics. It's really well earned, and it's done in a way that actually makes some level of sense. Like Joker like goes on his rants about society, um, like because of the fact of his experiences, what have you, or when the Batman actually, or like the Matt Reeves' Batman has it to where we pretty much understand, like even though we are kind of told that Selena and Annika have relations to each other, or at least like they both care about each other very much. We at least see a bit of them, a bit of that, about Selena and Annika being worried about their situation, what have you. Through Bruce like spying on them before Selena goes off to try to do her Catwoman things, um, to try to get her and Annika out of Gotham. Like we're shown some things, and then we get some elaborations through dialogue, you know in a context of like Selena just trying to explain to Batman like what the deal is with her, why she's going and breaking into the mayor's home to try to get to the vault, what the deal is with Annika, why she's tied in with the greater conspiracy that the Riddler's like sort of is like primarily motivated by, essentially. Like there's things that all tie in together really well in a way that makes sense. Whereas with this film, like we're just told about all these girls that the mob boss just cut the tongues out of and murdered. Really, we're not really shown it. We're just told like the thematics that this movie's trying to get across, and we're not really shown it in a way that's like more, in a way that just doesn't in a way that actually not only has it make some level of sense, but also like makes it to where we go, I understand it now. Nice. There's a bit of nuance there. That's a neat way of telling it. It's a neat way of getting across this message. The film doesn't do that. It's just like nuance is kind of not really in this movie's mind per se. Which you think with all the split personality stuff that the bride's going through in this throughout this film, you'd think that nuance is one of those things that's in the mind, but it's not. Ironic. But yeah, okay. So the very end. All right. So all right, very end of the movie, like the film kind of established that when a corpse is like brought back to life, Frankenstein style, they don't immediately remember who they are, who they were, what happened to them. Um, in this case, Um, at the very end, like the bride and Frank, they're both brought back, and they're like clutching each other's hand at the very end, and that's like one of the last shots of last things we see in the movie. Um, or at least the very last thing we see in the movie before the credits start rolling. So how did Annette Bening how how would those two, how would Frank and the bride like immediately remember that despite the fact that they both died essentially? Um, Frank literally had his brains blown out, and that's how he dies in this movie. So how the hell would he remember? How like and the bride presumably also probably got like a shot in their head because she was like riddled with bullets by the police officers that were in the place before Penelope Cruz came in and told them then to cease fire essentially. Um how would the bride remember Frank, immediately? Like how does this whole thing with the dead coming back to life even work? And then you have and then what on top of that, how the fuck is Frank able to come back to life with his brain essentially gone? How did Annette Bening replace his brain? What did she have a brain? It's like she even says, like, I don't keep dead bodies in storage. I can't keep a store a dead body here, Frank. When she's talking about when they're in reference to Ida, it's like we either bring her back now or we don't do it at all. We can't wait. I'm not going to store a dead body in my office, in my lab. So why would she? So like, did she? How did she? Like, how would Frank even be able to come back if his brain is essentially was like splattered across, splattered on a ground like at a drive-in theater in Indiana? you know, like did she have a did Annette Bening have a second brain in storage, like, and how was she able to put the brain in him like that quickly while there was police still outside? How are police not uh, it, it's so like I think about it, I'm just like this it's like how does that make sense? That doesn't make sense. It's just like, oh hey, it's for the shot, it's how to end the movie, in a cool way, I guess. While Monster Mash is playing for the during the credits, which I kind of like. It's a neat touch, like how like zany and bizarre the movie is, tonally speaking, despite how serious it gets at times. Um, and like it's kind of like a neat, because it's like a Monster Mash. It's a graveyard smash. You got like a Doctor Frankenstein type, like bringing a monster back, doing the Monster Mash, what have you, dancing, what have you. I mean, given what we've seen in this movie, like it like I guess it kind of it fits, I suppose, but uh man, yeah, I pretty much like when I first came out of this movie, I kind of felt I kind of had a lot of complicated emotions for the movie. Like I kind of think like it's complicated. I need to let this thing sort of marinate for a bit. But as I'm just like thinking about it more, and as I'm, even talking about this more during this stream, I'm talking to the void with y'all. Anybody who maybe listen to this in the playback or while it's live. Um, yeah, I'm kind of starting to lean more towards this movie, considering this movie as bad. Um, that's kind of where I'm sitting at. Because yeah, the movie just doesn't do anywhere near enough of what it was trying. Like for what this movie was trying to do, what it was trying to say, it doesn't do it in anywhere near enough, like as smooth or as cohesively as it could have or should have been. And there's like element parts of the movie that just don't even make that much sense. Like it's all just for style, essentially. It's like, oh hey, this would be kind of neat to have to close the movie on, or to have a dance number suddenly happen, you know, to sort of tie in with the fact that Frank, likes to dance. And so when he's like, goes into like his rage essentially, essentially snapping because of the fact that his idol not only doesn't recognize him but just disregards him entirely, um, and even insulting him while he's still there. While he's like still right behind him, by the way. Um, all he could do is just like loud guttural roar and then just do a dance, basically. And Ida just sort of joins in with him. And then you just have this weird dance number that Mary Shelley may have something to do with, which the only way that other people could start getting in on with it is that it's either in both their heads and somehow they weren't stopped by anybody, or the other people were getting in the dance, but perhaps unwillingly so by some supernatural force that the film doesn't even so much as try to explain, really, or at least not really explain in a sufficient way. Um, and it's really all just so we can have like this like this quirky stylistic choice of having Mary Shelley be a narrator for this, where it's like this is not going to be a monster story. You expect a monster story, a horror story, or most horrifying at all of all, a love story. Um, yeah, uh, it's you got that. I wasn't like like I kind of was started to worry about this movie when like right from the get go when Ida did start to get possessed by Mary Shelley and she goes on the rants about the oppression that women go through, um, in Victorian speak, um, in the middle of like this restaurant, like causing a scene and to where she's forced to like get kicked out of it. Essentially, before she's inadvertently pushed all the way down the stairs by one of the mob guys there, and killing her as she goes down the stairs. Um, yeah, I just, yeah, this movie just doesn't. This movie's not real. Like, I mean, and my main concern with that scene was just like, okay, they're gonna pour it on really thick with what this movie wants to say, essentially. It's like I have the dead have something to say. It's like you've been saying it so much through this movie. Okay, okay. I think well I know. I know these. I'm aware that these people may not know, but goddamn, really? All right. Yeah. Yeah. Um, I'm not sure what else to really say about this movie. To be honest. Um, Maybe there's other details that I don't know, like if I were to like do coverage on a video about this movie, I suppose, or if I were to revisit. I do think it's a movie that I could potentially do a rewatch of at some point, but certainly not when it's in theaters. No, I'm gonna wait until it hits home media, which may be sooner than one may think because making any it's not making any money. It's flopping pretty hard at the box office. Um, yeah, yeah, maybe there'll be some more elaboration for me to go off on to sort of like go on perhaps down the line in the near future, but we'll see. We will see. Um, but as it stands, yeah, I was kind of let down by this movie. Like the trailers looked kind of intriguing, the concept was pretty intriguing. I definitely like. I pretty much wanted, and I was kind of hoping that this movie would at least be kind of decent. Off kilter, over the top, sure, but could be worthwhile. Unfortunately, it kind of wasn't really. So yeah, I fuck, I'm not even sure what else to say. Like, hey, and guess what? If I'm pretty much done reviewing this movie or discussing it, then that means I've done a review that's still shorter than the movie. It's like it's one of those things of like if you make a review and it's longer than the actual movie that you're reviewing, then it's a bad review. Guess what, motherfucker? We haven't even got to the halfway point with the bride in terms of this stream. if I'm wrapping up here, this will be the shortest stream to date. Holy shit! Yeah, the Bride's not good. Surprised to say the Bride 2026. It's worth watching on a streaming service, I suppose, if you already have one. That could, if it happens to be on one that you already have. But yeah, I wouldn't go out of my way to subscribe to a streaming service just to watch it, or really pay a whole heck of a lot to rent it at this point. Oh well, it's a bit of a shame, but yeah, I mean, like, it was at least worth giving this movie like its day in court, if nothing else. So yeah, um, sometimes we have to look back. Sometimes when we fail, we have to move forward by accepting them and carrying on with quiet dignity and grace. Yeah, that's a young Frankenstein reference right there. Arguably slightly more clever than what this movie ended up doing, which is ironic. Um, but yeah, that's all there is to say about The Bride. Really, it's like it's funny. Like, the movie has so much to say, but it's like very much on the surface, to the point where that once you get past it, there isn't really a whole heck of a lot else. It's a movie with potential that could have, and there was still neat stuff there, like the Bonnie and Clyde angle with Frank and Ida. That was kind of neat, but even then, it's not the smoothest ride either. But oh shit! All right, we got someone coming on here. We've got Mr. Lau here.
Well, 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 well. Look who watched a shitty movie I told him would be shitty. Look who would play.
uh, here's the thing. Here's the thing. It was one of those things where I'm not sure what to expect from this movie. I'm hoping I was hoping it would be better than what it ended up being.
Well, well, sorry. Yeah, no, I know. Like, to be fair, here's the thing: the Bride on Frankenstein mixed with Bonnie and Clyde sounds bizarre, but there is definitely someone who could actually make it work. Like,
Yeah,
I understand what you mean, right? It's just that by what I saw in the trailer, right? It wasn't this version that could make it work, but it's something that could, like, yeah, no, it does have potential.
yeah.
It
Like, if someone were to take another crack at it, instead of like doing what this movie did, like actually just be straightforward with it and actually just tell that story and not try to overcomplicate things, then yeah, it would totally work. Certainly way better. It would certainly work way better than what we got here. Yeah,
like
yeah.
someone told me, because of course I didn't watch this, right? I'm saving my money for that movie where I'm literally the protagonist. Is like, it's me for real, for real. I'm
Hmm.
going to watch that one, right? But I heard, I don't know if you already went into this, but Mary Shelley is a thing in this movie.
Yes. Yeah. I was kind of like talking about that a bit in terms of like the whole spirit angle thing. Like, how does that even work? But yeah, the fact that, yeah, as I'm just thinking, like, yeah, Mary Shelley exists in this world. So how does it work? Like, did Frankenstein the novel like based on like an actual event? Like, she just wrote a non-fictional autobiography of sorts. Like, how does this work?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I don't know if they say that in the trailers, but had they said that in the trailers, I think that even you will have said, "I'm not watching this." Like, that was a surprise, right? That was like a bait and switch type of thing, right? Like, you go into the movie, you don't know that that's going to happen, and then it happens. Is it like that, or was it on the trailers?
I think I've always seen like it was only like the first trailer. I don't know if there were like any other. I'm trying to recall if there were like any other trailers that even so much just hinted at that.
The
Um,
ones that were released on theaters, at least, okay, because like I know that normally theaters release the first one and then the second one it's on YouTube, but that's doesn't really get to the previews of movies, right? Like normally by the time the movie is about to come out, like they don't update it unless it's like a big ass movie, right?
right.
But the one I watched, probably we watched the same one. Yeah, no, they don't say that. They
Yeah,
don't say
no.
that.
Yeah, yeah. Like here's the thing. Like even if we were to say like, oh, Mary Shelley is an actual thing, and her novel Frankenstein was based on something that actually does exist. That it's just that she maybe like fabricated some stuff for sensation, I suppose, or perhaps, or maybe like to where it doesn't it hit too close to home for maybe some people at the time. But the problem though is that this movie never even so much as like established like what exactly was the case, about like why she's even a thing in this movie.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like a complete bastardization of what she was, right? Because also, like, that's the thing. You're actually talking about a real person, and then it's like you're kind of like ruining their image. It just feels very narcissistic from the writer to say, yeah, no, this is how Mary Shelley would have felt about stuff.
Yeah, like, even though it's like, could we really know though? Like, I mean, like maybe like eh, perhaps like she probably would have some would probably have maybe have a bit of frustrations towards like how the fact that she was like a woman writer at the time, at like a time where that kind of concept would have been like unheard of for people. Like,
Mhm.
and she's like, right, instead of like writing like a weird love ballad, she writes like essentially this really dark, horrifying tale about science, like going about how man's ambitions like biting him in the ass, like in the big worst ways imaginable. Um,
Mhm.
like but yeah, I don't know if she would be this extreme. I don't think I can't. It's hard for me to say if she would be this extreme, like how this movie presents her as.
Well, what I need to ask them, because like since you watched it, well. Okay, never mind. Since you watched this, I need to ask you: did they mention how her husband cheated on her because she couldn't have kids?
She did. Yeah, you know what? I think she did, but while she was possessing the main girl, before the main girl even dies,
So,
like
so basically, like at the beginning of the movie, is that it?
pretty much, yeah.
And then it's ignored. Holy shit!
Ugh.
Like to be fair, that will be that should be the main thing if you're saying that somehow Mary Shelley got a second attempt at life.
Yeah.
Like you should be resentful about that.
Yeah,
And
yeah, the
yeah.
problem though is like the whole thing with the Mary Shelley thing is just kind of like it's implemented in this narrative as if like there's like the bride has like multiple personalities. You have like the personality that she is like now, because like the person she was before she became the bride, died. Like she's no longer around. So when she's brought back, like she kind of like she's kind of like a different person now, but there's also like another person that's like in her somewhat. Like like the movie like it's not like Mary Shelley like possesses her body when she's brought back from the dead. Like there's no other personality other than Mary Shelley. It's like it's almost like there's two different people
Yeah,
there.
she told
Like
about it.
when she goes into Mary Shelley mode, that's when she goes into like the rants and the diatribes, what have you. But like other than that, like it's just kind of like an excuse for the writer to have it to where the bride would just be able to say things out loud, what like the feminism thematics that the writer wants her to say.
Oh, who's the writer? Because in this situation, it's like you have a
The
set.
writer is also the director, and the writer director for this is Maggie Gyllenhaal,
Okay, let's.
as in the sister of Jake Gyllenhaal, who is also in this movie.
I'm trying to. You said Maggie, right? Like,
Maggie Gyllenhaal. She was Rachel in The Dark Knight.
oh, 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 shit. She was Rachel in the Dark Knight. Yeah, yeah. Now remember. Yeah, she was the recast. Yeah, yeah. Because the first actress
Was Katie
wasn't.
Holmes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay. Let's see. What else has she written?
she wrote. I think she did one other movie before this, from what I've heard.
Yeah, so the reason why I was asking is because if this was a guy, that guy was trying to fuck a feminist girl, and he made this whole movie just for that. And if it's a woman, she's like just like resentful.
If it was iDubbbz. uh, got very quiet there. Yeah, let me check. Actually, let me check. What else did Megan Gyllenhaal wrote? Well, there's I don't know if you can hear me loud, but is there is there a signal thing going
Uh,
on?
yeah, no, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I mean, well, I can hear you now. For some reason, you just went like completely silent, like nothing. Like your icon was still there, so it's not like you left, but it was
Ah,
like,
okay, that's weird. Maybe it's because I got out of the call while I was looking at Google for too long, and that like disconnected me from the call. That's weird. But
oh,
what are you saying about the things you wrote?
I'm trying to see like what else, what was like, what else Megan Gyllenhaal did as far as like filmmaking, like like as like a writer, director, what have you. Trying to see what else. I guess you were doing the same thing, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Maybe that's why I got disconnected because I'm on
Oh,
the phone.
oh, okay, gotcha. I
But
was gonna.
what I was saying is that if it's a guy, I imagine that they will having someone, yeah, like IDOPS, right? Like trying to pretend like he's a feminist, someone like Hassan, stuff like that. But since it's a woman, it's even sadder, right? Because it's not even disingenuous. It's just she's resentful for whatever thing, right? About society, blah blah blah. She's a fucking millionaire, dude. Like, shut up. And it's
Okay,
like she just brings a real person's image from the dead and uses it like a fucking puppet to validate herself, ignoring completely what that person might have actually felt. Because, dude, like, she got cucked. No one wants to say it, but Mary Shelley was a cuck.
oh,
Even if she didn't want to because of her shitty husband. And I think that if she came back, she will probably have some unresolved issues about that. But this director, writer, whatever joke, uh, she didn't even care about the person. She just saw an opportunity to validate her own beliefs. And that's like super narcissistic and disrespectful. And that's exactly what I expect from a rich person complaining about, like feminism.
okay.
Normal people like that.
Her
But
direct her debut as a director and writer was a movie called The Lost Daughter from 2021. It's like some drama film that nobody heard of, unless you saw it at like like the Venice Film Festival or some shit. It's on Netflix.
you know what? I might take a look at it if it's on Netflix, just out of curiosity, because, like, holy shit.
Yeah, yeah. Like there's even like a moment where I think the bride was like suddenly just like shouting was like shouting "Me too" or something. I was like, oh no. I was like, okay, come on, come on, people, really? Let's uh let's dial it back a little.
Yeah. Wait. Also, one thing I wanted to ask you is the movie takes place in the 30s, I think, something like
Yeah,
that, or the
yeah,
50s.
the 30s. Oh wait, no, actually, like the horror movie that Frank and the Bride were, saw in the theater briefly, like in 3D, wasn't. It turns out it wasn't White Zombie. It's called Revolt of the Zombies. Apparently, which, but that's funny because like I swear I thought I saw Bela Lugosi. Oh wait, yeah, hold it, yeah, that's right. Apparently, like Bela Lugosi's eyes like appeared on the screen in that movie. That's why I must have thought it was White Zombie, but yeah,
Mm.
never mind. Yeah, I was doing a correction there, but anyways,
So basically, Mary Shelley, I was just looking at this. She died in 1851 at
yeah,
53, right? The,
uh,
the, the thing I would ask is, do you feel like the person here, like the quote unquote bride, do you feel like she acts like a person? Not only on the fact that she's clearly being used as a puppet, right? But do you feel like she acts as a 53-year-old person, or does she act like a crazy Harley Quinn, like 20-something-year-old crazy, unique, and special type of like woman crazy thing that we have seen in the 2010s onwards?
uh, what was the? I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Does she act like Harley Quinn basically, or does she actually act like a 53-year-old person in the body of like a younger person? Because like the maturity of the character, it's so far it sounds like it's not really there. But I'm asking like beyond like the political aspect of it. Do you feel like it even feels like a person that has a second chance at life? Like a mature 53-year-old person, or does it feel more like Harley Quinn?
It's kind of like a bit of like when she's portrayed like Mary Shelley. It's like if it pretty much comes off as like like somewhat when she's doing the Mary Shelley thing. She kind of like her dialogue seems to be written like a feminist from the Victorian era, just go just like ranting, essentially. So it's not really. I wouldn't even say Harley Quinn necessarily, because at least Harley Quinn, like she would just be like batshit insane or something, to in a way where it's like kind of like equal opportunity insanity.
Okay, so it's not as bad as I feared. I was worried that she will be just like crazy. But okay, so she's mostly bitter.
Yeah, I mean, she goes up like there's a bitterness, but she's like a lot more theatrical, like over the top, essentially about that
Okay,
in it. So it's kind of like that's kind of what we have that going on. But yeah,
and Christian Bale is in this thing.
yeah, he's as the Frankenstein monster, and I like like to be fair, like he does well in the role essentially. Like I pretty much I liked his take on him on the Frankenstein monster. It's just like he's a Frankenstein monster who's kind of seen a lot, who's kind of like seen the world change. He's sort of like he's just kind of like accepted his like kind of like accept like he's sort of like sick with loneliness essentially. But he's kind of like been like much more soft spoken, much more like trying to like when he does like anything like instinctual or something. Like to the point like he's like asleep in the lab. The bride like kind of checked, sees him lying on the floor, like sleeping underneath like the lab table that she was on. She like blows on him, and he like gets startled and like startled and like goes like Jack. It's like even like does like a backhand to her, and then he's all like he immediately regrets it. It's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Kind of like that.
Hmm.
But not in a way of like where he comes off as like a wimp. He's like kind of just like he's trying to be chill essentially because he's like he was kind of like a guttural monster at one point, but he's trying to like
Yeah.
move past it.
Okay, so do you feel like so would you say that it's at least like a positive from the movie, or like
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, he's definitely like a good counterbalance to like the more eccentric performance from Jesse Buckley's bride character.
Yeah, it's kind of hard for Christian Bale to do something that's bad. He's like mm, he's just that good, right? Like he can even go into fucking Love and Thunder
Yeah,
and put everyone to shame. It's like an adult working while he's surrounded by kids, but he still takes it seriously.
yeah, like like he's pretty much like the one thing in Thor: Love and Thunder that just makes you go like, okay, that guy, you take that guy, like we just take him out of that movie, tweak him a bit, so he's not like doesn't have the Taika Waititi tisms here and there, like, and then just put him in a much better movie. There we go.
Yeah, yeah. But that's how he always does when he's like in a bad movie. He's always like the salvageable thing.
Oh yeah.
And as a Frankenstein interpretation, you feel like this adds a new level of value, to like everything that the character has been so far, or do you feel like it's fine, but it's like it doesn't necessarily justify watching the movie, or do you feel like it is like interesting enough that people should at least give it a watch if they like Frankenstein as a whole?
Um, honestly, it's kind of I'm still at a point where it's a bit complicated for me. Like I mean I do, it's kind of like Bale's portrayal of the monster is like is like essentially like essentially kind of like is a bit of like kind of the glue that holds together like somewhat of like like getting through like him and his counterbalancing with Jesse Buckley's bride throughout the movie. Like they're kind of like essentially the glue that holds the whole Bonnie and Clyde angle that they have going on, which is still the main plot technically. And like even though the execution of it certainly does kind of definitely falters, at a lot of points. It's still like the strongest part of the movie. It's still like the strongest part of the movie, whereas everything else just seems to be like if these weren't here and the film actually was able to focus on the Bonnie and Clyde thing and not try to be this ambitious with it, we try to do things that it's just not capable of handling, then it would have been, then the movie would have been, pretty solid. But as it is, like I don't know if I would say it's enough to really, like I'd say it's not worth seeing the movie in the theater for. Let me put it this way: like if you were to catch it like on streaming, or if you were, or even just like rent it for a very reasonable price, like for like a couple bucks, I guess, then I would say sure.
Now, the also one more extra addition that I would like to ask: would you also consider just a YouTube compilation to be fair enough for what the movie has done?
with just the scenes between them.
Yeah, yeah, basically just Christian Bale.
um, hmm, that's a good question. that is a good question. Um,
It's a mean question, but in the end, coming from the Godzilla, franchise, like there's a lot of stuff where it's basically you could do that and you're getting the most entertainment out of the whole thing because, like, for example, let's say the anime trilogy for Godzilla, right? Is it worth it watching like the whole fucking thing for like 5 minutes of action? No, because the movies are also bad on top of not having action.
Well,
So
the good thing about Christian Bale, like if you want to watch, like if someone were to put together a YouTube compilation for Christian Bale performing as the monster, like For one thing, obviously it would be more than 5 minutes. That's for sure. Um,
Yeah,
but like, I mean, I could see it be like a YouTube compilation. Um, I suppose, but that's just assuming anybody beyond like someone like me or
yeah, even
smaller
searching
people.
for it. Yeah,
Yeah, considering like hardly anybody like this movie. Oh shit! You know, what? I first thought the movie made like 20 million, like globally. Like, turns out like the movie has a budget of 85 million, and we probably would take into account like some extra for marketing, what have you. The box office for it so far is only 14.7 million worldwide. So this
yeah.
this thing ain't making its money back.
Well, well, well.
Well, well, well.
I mean that is part of what I was saying the other day. Wait, did we talk about that on Discord or on a stream? I think it was on Discord, right?
Uh, about what exactly?
When
Oh
you
yeah,
said that you wanted to watch, yeah, yeah, it was on Discord. So what I asked you that time is, well, I didn't ask you. It was more like an open question, like who do they even think asked for something like this? Right, because like if you can have like a lot of crazy movies, like for example, no one ever asked for everything everywhere all at once, right? But it's still so good that when people find it, it's so unique and good. That's the main part. Good, being unique is not good enough. And it's so unique and good that people realize that they were missing something that this movie is giving them, right?
yeah.
But for something like this, which honestly is like pretty simple, to be fair, like just take Bonnie and Clyde and put like a Frankenstein skin on it,
And
and
you
then
just
they
put
made it
feminism in
complicated.
there.
Yeah, who do you feel like that was a strong enough concept? Because I think that there are ways to make it work for sure, but I don't think is it worth it though, right? Like the risk, like is it special enough when you hear it? Bonnie and Clyde, Bride and Frankenstein.
What
Like,
I can say is that what I can say is like it could, but that being said, I would not recommend the studio like potentially risking losing as much as like 90 million, because for the just for the sake of like if you like leave out the dance numbers that kind of go on in the movie, like even for as like cheesy but in an entertaining way as some of them are, as they are, like leave those out because that would inflate the costs. And if you just like leave out and if you like tighten the script up, and I mean like really tighten it to the point where like even just someone just cut out like some of these subplots out entirely. Like there's a mob boss subplot that I kind of mentioned earlier that could just be left out of the movie completely, and really the movie would have been all the better for it, because it's not like the movie ties that loose end up like before the credits start rolling. They literally tie that up like as the credits roll, and that's like the last thing you see as opposed to the end of Frank and the Bride story even. So yeah, like let me just say, like it would be worth like if the movie was actually like quite good and it actually was like much more focused. Um, and if you didn't spend like a shit ton of money on it, like only spend like a reasonable amount, like I'd say like maybe like the good word of mouth would be enough to at least like get it to where the movie would still turn in a profit. Maybe not like a huge profit, but it would at least like make a little more than break even, perhaps.
mhm. Yeah,
But
like as I think of the concept, right?
But even
Where
then, I can understand like how even then it would somewhat underperform because of like it's such a high concept. It because it's so high concept.
yeah, yeah, I don't know if it's high concept. That's the thing. Like the concept is actually very basic, but the execution could be really good.
Yeah,
That's
the
the thing.
execution could
The
be
concept
really good.
itself
Yeah,
is not
yeah,
something that people hear and they say, "Oh my god, I need to see that." It's like, "Oh, Bonnie and Clyde," like it's like really played out. Bonnie and Clyde is not like a strong concept, and just giving it the Frankenstein skin doesn't really help it either, right? Like you have Frankenstein, which is a very niche thing, and then Bonnie and Clyde, which is like a very lame, to be fair, type of stuff. You like how many times are you going to tell the Bonnie and Clyde story? Basically, that's the question.
yeah. That's yeah,
So I wouldn't say it's high concept. That's the problem. The problem is the concept itself is not marketable.
yeah,
So yeah, I'm just confused at some of these weird decisions. But what I wanted to say is that as a comedy, I think it could work really well, actually.
yeah. Like maybe even a dark comedy. Like it would like it
Yeah,
would.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like like you finally get the bride. You actually, you I don't know. Let's say Mary Shelley's Ghost, whatever, because it's a comedy, right? So you don't need to take it so seriously. She resets the entire timeline because she's the one writing the story, right? And
Right.
she actually makes it so that Victor Frankenstein is like, "Oh, you want the ride? Yeah, sure. You know what's the worst that could happen?" And he just gives it to to the monster, right?
Yeah.
And the monster is like finally gets it after all this time, all these tries, and then she's a fucking psychopath, and then he's like afraid of her, right? Like, and you have that type of comedy. Yeah, like it will be like this ironic dark comedy, right?
Yeah.
And slowly he ends up like, Victor, please help me kill her, kill me, kill me. Like that. That's something you could do. And if you sold it as a comedy, like with a bunch of fucking colors, Christian Bale and whoever, yeah, I don't even think that the design of the bride looks bad here, right?
No.
Like
No.
it's unique, right? Like, but it's not bad. It's just different from what we normally see.
Yeah.
I think
Which
that could work
different
so
doesn't.
well.
Yeah, different doesn't necessarily mean bad, really. Like yeah, she has like her hair is like all frizzled out. Like she kind of looks kind of a corpse like because of the fact that she's got pale skin, what have you. And she's got like the blotches, that are they're basically just permanently stained on her skin. They're not like makeup, really. I mean, well, makeup for the actress to have applied on her face, but in terms of like and on her body, but like in the universe, it's just black gunk that she like coughed out, and it like kind of stains her skin.
Mhm.
But
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, I like the look. Yeah, it's a neat. I mean, like it's definitely a neat look for whatever for the style that they're going for. With this being like a 1930s pulpy, like sort of like a noir take of of like a gothic character,
yeah.
essentially.
The cat didn't like it either.
The cat didn't like it.
Yeah, no, 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 no. He goes to a cinema on his own. Like I'm here rotting in my fucking house, and he just goes and has a life. How dare he? But yeah, um, this people really need to start. Like maybe they did money laundering. Maybe that's why this movie exists.
uh that's good. I mean, here's the thing. I probably would believe that Joker 2 was probably money laundering. Um,
Yeah.
because I mean,
Oh,
like, I kind of hear people compare this movie to Joker 2, and I would say, like, in a tangential sense, sure, but I would say, like, like, in terms of like what these two movies were trying to do, like in a general sense, like I would say they couldn't be any more different. Because like the Bride at least like has it to where like well the monster and the bride do have a happy ending, even if it doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. Where and it's like a storyline that I guess you could say like ties up, to where like we don't need to see any more of it. Whereas Joker 2 essentially just actively destroys the first movie retroactively and essentially makes itself redundant. So it's just like what the fuck? This is just a big wait. So why did I waste my time not just trying to get in with this movie, but also like even so much as given that first movie like Like, okay, so you're just gonna character assassinate the first movie in every way, shape, and form. Okay, like the Bride doesn't do anything like that. Well, aside, well, I mean, unless you want to argue the Mary Shelley aspect,
Yeah,
which
they did assassinate Mary Shelley. Like
it's
she had, they brought her back and then they killed her again. But yeah, like by definition, Joker 2 is almost like filler. You just watch the first one and then you can ignore the second one. This one being like a standalone movie will already deny that, right? Like even if you think that the story is bad and that you don't want to watch it, it's not.
yeah, yeah, no. There's gonna be like there like it's not gonna kill the prospect of us getting more Frankenstein movies because like the Frankenstein's public domain. It's like we're gonna get Frankenstein adaptations, what have you, no matter what. And there's plenty of good ones out there. It's not like this movie's gonna taint the legacy that those older movies left behind, like the '30s films or the Hammer versions, or even Del Toro's movie from last year.
Actually, wasn't there like another Frankenstein adjacent girl movie a couple of years back? Let me see. I think there was something like that.
Hmm,
Uh,
could be.
Frankenstein. I remember that there was this movie where there's this girl, right? And she has like the same hairstyle, and I think it's Lisa Frankenstein.
Oh yeah. Oh
Did you
yeah.
watch that one, by the way?
No, I never watched it. Um,
Okay, so never mind because I didn't watch it either. I heard about some people that like it, right? So it's like in this movie. I don't even think will kill the idea of a Frankenstein movie more leaning towards the female audience.
right.
Like trying to relate to women. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, and I don't think that they should take that from the results of this movie. I hope that we can, the more variety we get, the better. But this feminist thing, it's so fucking 2016. It's like, of
Yeah.
course, a fucking millionaire wrote it. They're always decades behind on what
Yeah.
normal people are actually doing at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, like if anything, like this movie's like if there's anything that this movie could have as far as a lasting legacy to the Frankenstein name, essentially, it would just potentially like give studios the idea to just kind of be like, okay, let's not do something like that again. If anything, let's just play it more safe with Frankenstein.
Yeah,
Because I mean, like with Dracula, like they like it seemed like studios kind of understand that with Dracula. For instance, it's like actually that's a good thing. Speaking of, if anything, the way that this movie was sort of done, where it's like if you have like this main story that is like that's actually that's at least kind of interesting. That's at least that at least has neat stuff going for it to where you could say like if it was just this, the movie would have been fine. And then but then you have all this other bullshit involving like crime bosses or what have you, and detectives like trying to figure out what's going on, what have you. This movie, if anything, reminds me more of Renfield more than anything.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because
yeah.
you got like the whole thing with Renfield dealing with an abusive boss being Dracula, and him trying to like break free from that. Like that's like it's like it conceptual as like a concept. Like the movie at
Dude,
least tries to capitalize on it at points, but then you have all this crime boss bullshit. With Aquafina trying to take down a crime boss who has Sonic the Hedgehog as her son. Like, it's
yeah.
like just where it's just like there's like these two. Like, it really just seemed like they were just sort of Frankenstein together.
Oh, and you know what's also like you have two great fucking actors in those movies, which is like Christian Bale and Nicolas Cage playing the Universal monsters, right?
Yeah,
And not to say Renfield isn't like a great actor, that guy himself, right? Like actually he went and he played, like the guy in Nosferatu. So like he's like really good too, right? But come
Yeah,
on,
Nicholas. Yeah,
Nicolas Cage.
you said you said Nicolas Cage. It's actually Nick. Yeah, were you referring to Nicholas Holt?
Oh yeah, Nicholas. No, no, I mean Nicolas Cage playing Dracula.
Yeah, okay. And you have Nicholas Holt, who plays Renfield in who's the starring the title character of Renfield, who goes on to
Yeah,
play the Jonathan Harker type in Nosferatu.
Nosferatu.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
it's
yeah,
the whole net. Yeah, it's all related, but yeah, no, it's funny. Like, yeah, they are similar, but even then, I would say that actually,
and they
uh,
both bombed. So that's another similarity.
but at least Renfield can be enjoyed partially,
Yeah,
right?
like Renfield. Yeah, I
How
could
that
say Renfield. Renfield will. I would. Yeah, I could definitely agree. Renfield hold. Sorry if I cut you off, but yeah, I agree. Renfield does. I could arguments can certainly be made that Renfield holds up better from a writing standpoint. At least like at least if I were to upon closer inspection with the Bride, potentially, because
yeah. Yeah, no, and to be fair, like they are different genres. Okay, like I get that this movie, like I said, that it should be a comedy, but it probably has like no jokes. And Renfield, on the other hand, is a comedy, right? And it depends on the type of humor that people have. But at least the emotional part between the manipulation with Dracula and Renfield is actually really good. The
yeah,
problem is that the plot, but the
yeah,
not exploiting it. But what you have there is actually really well done. Like the dialogue is good. The backstory is actually also good.
yeah,
Yeah,
and Nicholas Cage.
goes to shit.
Yeah, and as far as like an actor like hamming it up, as far as like actors like sort of like going over the top and going hammy and what have you, like Nicolas Cage, like at least like works much. It's much more earnest in how hammy it is than this film in a way because he's like going like you could tell Nicolas Cage was having like the time of his life playing this character because like he himself is a Universal Monsters fan, so it's like yeah, why not like go all in essentially?
Yeah,
Like it's almost like a
and,
dream for him.
and it even adds a little bit of what I said. Like does this add any value to how Frankenstein has been portrayed over the movies? And I think that Nicolas Cage does it right. He looks good. He is a very special type of Dracula in the sense that he's very incompetent, but not in a comedic way. It's just like like he is incompetent in the sense that he always gets his ego like boosted, and then he just fucks up, and there's like this cycle. So like it's not the typical Dracula, but also
Yeah,
like unique in its own way. It understands the character that it's trying to portray in the story, and in that sense it does add value to okay, so if you don't like this type of Dracula, maybe you like this one, like you have options.
yeah,
But a Frankenstein that like has lived for longer, and has like started to change, technically didn't you kind of get that in I Frankenstein, even if also that movie also sucks?
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess like with this movie, like it at least kind of draws attention to that. Whereas with I Frankenstein, that really I Frankenstein, it really was just like essentially just a very surface level sort of like reskin of like the archetype of like an immortal being that's lived for hundreds of years. That's like gonna go like honestly, like you could switch. It's like to the point where it pretty much wouldn't even need to be Frankenstein's monster in order to have the same plot. Really, like you could just have it just be like some generic immortal being fighting demons, what have that fights demons, um, and and you wouldn't even need it to have any connection to Frankenstein at all. Whereas like with the Bride, they at least like try to have it where the Frankenstein monster, since he has lived for over 100 years, like he's seen how art has sort of evolved essentially. Hence why he has like a has like an appreciation for cinema because of
Uh-huh.
like now granted like it doesn't really do much more beyond with it beyond like what you see at the beginning of the movie, but at least there's something there like
There's concepts of an attempt,
there's
basically.
concepts, there's attempts that make me go, oh, that's it really like I like it makes you. It just really does make you wonder. Like, is like did Maggie Gyllenhaal just intentionally make this movie this messy because of because like hey, it fits with the Frankenstein motif. It's like you got a piece here, piece there, piece there. It doesn't make for that cohesive of a whole, but hey, like it's a movie
It's
technically.
a puzzle. You can stitch it up any way you want.
Yeah, like I don't like I don't think that's how storytelling works, but okay.
Uh, well, you get a good one, you get a bad one.
Yeah.
And so, knowing that this one sucks, and I understand that this one that I saw here, Lisa Frankenstein, is probably definitely almost not related to Frankenstein himself. It's just like tangentially related, or maybe it is related to Frankenstein. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it draws inspiration. Well, I mean, the film is supposedly like drawing in like. I mean, I hear people say like it draws inspiration from Bride of Frankenstein, the 1935 film, but I think it's like that's only just because that there's a bride character who is like a woman that's dead, but is like brought back to life, intended to be a mate for the Frankenstein monster.
Hmm.
And like the sole motivation for the monster to want to have a bride is because he wants a companion to like live like his roommate, like however like the rest of his days, however many there may be, um with essentially to just kind of like fuck off and do whatever.
Yeah. Basically, it removes Frankenstein and it centers on the other thing.
Yeah, you got like a Frankenstein. I mean, like you have a Frankenstein type in this movie, who's played by Annette Bening, but yeah, she's not real. Like she's just kind of a side character, really. She's kind of
Okay.
like the thing that the monster needs to give him a bride, and that's pretty much that kind of like where her relevance stops.
Mm, okay.
Like, I mean, she shows up, pops up occasionally, after like the first third of the movie, but really, but not in like that, not in enough of a meaningful way to where I could say, like, yes, I'm like, you know what, it's fine that you have limited screen time because you use the time pretty well. It's like at first.
Are you? What are you talking about exactly? Because I thought that you hadn't watched that movie, Lisa Frankenstein.
Lisa Frank. No, I didn't. No, I said I didn't watch. No, I didn't watch Lisa Frankenstein. I didn't mention Lisa Frankenstein at all.
Okay, because I mentioned it, and I think that there was like a confusion, and you started talking about. I think it's one of the characters in this movie that the on the bride. But what I was trying to say is, I said, you get a good one, you get a bad one, and then I said I'm curious about Lisa Frankenstein and to know if it's also bad or if it's good. And like I don't think that it could be worse than this, so I might actually give it a watch.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might have. Yeah, I probably feel like I'd have to at this point.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, right. Like if you give like this a chance and like at this point anything will be a palate cleanser. So I think it's like the best opportunity to give that one a watch.
or just or pull up Netflix and just watch the Del Toro version again. Like, like if I'm being honest, I probably would just do that before anything.
Do that one, then you have to watch Van Helsing, and then you go to Lisa Frankenstein. No, actually, watch Frankenstein Del Toro, then watch Lisa, and then if Lisa is bad, you have Van Helsing as a last resource to palette cleanse for the second time.
Honestly, I probably would just watch the Karloff version again. Like just to do that. Just fuck it. Like, it's not. It's like, it's not Halloween yet. I don't care. I need this right now.
I need it injected in my veins. Dude,
Ah,
I do have to say, I wish instead of stuff like this movie, we actually got Van Helsing 2. Just like fuck it, just do it, just go crazy. Like mix all the monsters together, make it like super
yeah,
comedy.
like if you're just gonna, like they pretty much, like they joke about Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine until he's 90. It's like fuck it, just have him be Van Helsing again. Like, like you're gonna do the Mummy 4 again, at least like start getting teed up and be like, okay, Hugh. Hugh, you don't need to be Wolverine anymore. We want you to be we want you back as Van Helsing.
Although you know what would be funny? They actually made Van Helsing 2, and you can tell that beneath his coat he has the Wolverine suit on.
Oh god! Like honestly, Van Helsing 2 probably I probably would rather take that. Like I'm not even that crazy about the first one at all. But like like a sequel to it could probably work. At this point, I'd rather just have that. Like who knows? We might run into Creature from Black Lagoon. We might actually get get do something pretty kick ass with him. In that I don't know.
Yeah, it's just that we will get action versions of this movie. Some people might even consider Del Toro an action or more heavy action packed
Yeah,
version of the
with
original
the
story.
bits that we get. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like if we're going to do that, just like go all out, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the funny part. Well, I think you and I have said it like a couple of times. We don't really mind having variety. Like it's not like you need to remake the same movie over and over again. No one really wants that unless you're like boring and lame and
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah, obviously, as long as whatever you're trying to do with it, whether it is like a faithful adaptation of Frankenstein or Dracula or the Invisible Man, or if you're doing something a little, or if you're doing something different with it, like something going a little more wild or experimental with it, as long as it's good, I'm just like if it's well done, I'm not gonna have then yeah, go for it. Like I'll be all for it.
But then we have people like this making their passion projects.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? It should be gate kept.
Yeah. God, the next monster movie that's coming out, that's coming out this year in theaters is that Mummy movie, Lee Cronin's Mummy.
Is the one where Brendan Fraser is coming back?
No, this is a different. No, this is called Lee Cronin's The Mummy. No, the Brendan Fraser one. That one, if that is happening, like apparently it's like it won't be for for a couple of years
Okay, okay.
because I
I'm
think
going to
that
watch
one's in
that one.
development.
Even if that one is bad, I'm going to watch it like 10 times just so Brendan Fraser gets my money somehow. Like, even if he only gets like €5, I'm going to spend like 100 just for him to get my money. That man needs to be protected at all costs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for now for now we have to like go through this Mummy movie from the director of Evil Dead Rise, produced by Blumhouse.
Ooh, oh, okay. You said Blumhouse, and now I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, well, here's the thing: Universal isn't even distributing that movie; it's New Line Cinema distributing it.
Yeah,
So
okay. The
how
distributor.
funny? Like, I just know, like, if that movie ends up being shit, and there's a good chance that it will be, but who knows? Who can say right now? But if it ends up being bad and people would just probably start blaming Universal, be like, why can't you guys just make a Brendan Fraser Mummy movie? We keep asking for the Mummy 4, and you just give us this piece of shit. And like
You
we
mean
can
the
make
Mummy 3?
Universal will be like, we didn't make that. We didn't like that was New Line Cinema.
First of all, you mean the Mummy 3 because the next one will be the third one. There is no third Mummy movie. Second,
Oh yeah, that's true. Oh yeah,
there
right.
is none.
Yeah,
And
there's no Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. Like yeah, it'd be cool if there was a mummy movie with Jet Li, with Brendan Fraser fighting Jet Li as a mummy. Then that would have been nice. But oh well.
it never happened. God damn
No,
it.
that never
Yeah,
happened.
it never happened. But the thing is, when you said basically, I don't want to be one of these elitist people, but if it's not A24 and it's low budget, and on top of that, it's Blumhouse, I don't see any hope.
Yeah, I mean,
To
like if it's a
Blumhouse is
Universal,
like
yeah,
garbage.
yeah, if it's Blumhouse doing Universal, doing like their take of a Universal monster, yeah, I'm gonna be, yeah, I'm a bit more guarded at this point. It's, like, even though as much as I mean, like, as much like I don't hate Invisible Man 2020 or Wolfman 2025, like, but I will say I'm definitely much more mixed. But yeah, like, quality wise, they're kind of a mixed bag. Wolfman arguably more so, but yeah, Invisible Man is definitely like we like I guess there is potentially a reason for why that movie ended up being a success while Wolfman just crashed and burned. But like, as far as like that Mummy movie, like, I don't know what they're gonna do. Like the Lee Cronin Mummy movie, like I'm just like thinking, like, how is that gonna go? Like, I mean, I'm curious, but only like in the sense of like, what are they gonna do with that? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's a
Yeah.
bit morbid than anything.
So I had some ideas for what I would do if I was making a mommy movie, but it was, low budget mommy movie. I mean,
Yeah,
uh, but the thing is, it's just Blumhouse. That's the problem. Like they don't have any vision. It feels.
yeah. You'd think that if anything, like if you were to do like a low budget mummy movie, even one produced by Blumhouse, who like, even though they give you a limited budget, you would still have like a little bit to work. We have like a bit more to work with than your average Blumhouse movie. Like, they could have just done a mummy movie in a similar vein of like the autopsy of Jane Doe, essentially. Like, for what it like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
like that.
dude.
I mean, that's right there. It's like, come on.
What I was thinking for a mommy movie, right? Because there was a point where I wanted to, take all the Universal monsters that were like, not like a specific character like Frankenstein, but like a creature, right? Like vampire, mommy, a creature from the Black Lagoon, and maybe I guess, what else did we have? Invisible Man? Did we? I mean, I
Invisible
guess no.
Man.
He's a character. She's not like a creature. Okay, never mind. I
Uh,
was thinking of this like poor broke ass like fucking orphan kid somewhere in Egypt, right? Like with no fucking future, and like a very like far away descendant. Basically, his grand ten times 10, basically, uh, comes back to haunt him, and it's supposed to be the spirit of like a pharaoh or whatever that's trying to like mess up with his kid, so he actually like takes over the body, right? And like a lot of bad things are happening around him, which would kind of be a little bit like Nosferatu, you know. Unless you give me your body, bad things are going to happen, right? And then everyone around starts dying. There's plagues, kind of like taking from the mummy, with all of the beetle plagues and all of the bugs and shit like that, and the
yeah,
sands.
you get like the plagues of Egypt kind of going on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you have to kind of like stop that, and that's how you have like this all powerful thing, but also you have like this story where you don't have like the world focus, right? Like you can focus on this kid, and like that's it, right? You don't need a fuck ton of extras. You don't need a bunch of people. But
Yeah,
yeah, uh,
yeah. I mean, my idea would be like either it would be akin to the autopsy of Jane Doe, or it would be but with a mummy, or it would be like it would be essentially just like the first 5 minutes of the original Boris Karloff mummy, but like extended to a except like extended like to like a feature, like to a feature film. Um, where like they kind of like do the discovery, to like set things up, maybe set some of the characters up, and then the rest is like, like some creepy shit going on, building up more and more until there's like this, where you're uncertain if there's like, it's even like maybe even play a bit in the psychological of like, is the mummy alive, or is Is it asleep? I mean, we read this thing, but what happened? What's going on here?
Mhm.
And it's and then by like, and then like at some point, it just becomes very apparent that like, oh no, we just woke up this mummy. It's gonna kill us or do horrible things.
Yeah, that would be nice. Have you seen this game called the Mortuary Assistant?
Uh, I'm trying to recall if I've even heard of it. Like, I mean, it's like I imagine that. Well, like I'm guessing the concept is like that you play as like the assistant in a morgue, and you find and there's like dead bodies there, and then they like
And it starts going very, very wrong. Yeah, yeah, basically that's it.
yeah, it's like a zombie. Like it ends up becoming like a zombie
Not
story.
like a zombie, it's more like a haunting.
Ooh,
Very like, it's one of the scariest games that were that have been made. It's one of those games where you might not even see the things looking at you until if you're like a streamer or something, like you watch a replay or whatever, and
yeah.
then you realize you walk right next to something that was looking at you right from a corner or stuff like that. It's really good. It's really fucking good. So if you ever want to like develop your idea, I will say play that one just as to see as inspiration, or if you want to avoid doing the same thing. I think for both reasons it will be super useful.
Hmm.
But yeah, and if Blumhouse did like a Frankenstein movie, I think that would really suck.
Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of like just thinking that. Yeah, probably at this
Yeah.
point. But yeah, speaking of Frankenstein movies that aren't particularly good, yeah, The Bride isn't. It's not good. I, I, I'm definitely starting to succumb to like considering it to be bad at this point. Like I mean, I was like giving it like I mean, when I first saw it, I was just kind of like thinking I need to let this sort of marinate more. Maybe when it comes out for like to be for renting to be a rental, like I probably might see like if like it holds up any better or worse. Kind of like what I did with Renfield. Well, at least like well, I mean, even then, in the case of Renfield, like I rented it, on like Fandango or what have you, Fandango at home,
Yeah.
to do an essay video for it. But like with The Bride, it's like I don't really have any desire to do an essay vid on this one.
Yeah,
Because
there
I just
are.
don't. Because now I'm like, I don't think I have a desire to watch it again. At least not anytime soon. Maybe if it comes out streaming, but that probably won't be for a while.
Probably they will try to sell to. They will have to pay to the platforms to stream that fucking movie because like it seems like such a big failure. It
Yeah,
will definitely be on streaming because when they just completely fail, the
yeah,
movies are basically worthless. So the platforms all like absorb them basically.
yeah. Let me
It,
put it this way: like, if James Gunn's Superman like went straight to streaming while that movie was still in theaters, like like a month or even like a little less than that, because and let's quite be frank here, it's not just because that Peacemaker Part Season 2 was coming out. It was because the movie was underperforming. It was not doing anywhere near as well as they were hoping it would. Okay,
Mm.
like they were hoping to make big bucks with it, but it was like, I mean, it made bucks, but not like billion. Let's be frank, which is I'm sure that was what they were hoping. This movie, I imagine, like I'd be surprised if the movie I would not be surprised if like after I end this stream, I find out that it's like, hey, by the way, it's not on digital right now.
yeah, yeah. It wouldn't really be. The thing is, this movie is basically leeching off of the IP, right?
Yeah,
It's a plant. It's just there so like a rich woman that honestly probably has no real issues or any societal problems that she has to face because she has so much money.
yeah.
She's also like old as hell, so she's not struggling to like find purpose in life. She's already done like her career and all of that.
Maggie Gyllenhaal is like turning 50,
Yeah,
next year. So it's like,
yeah, dude. Like it's an ego piece.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
like, yeah, like
it's
she's trying to like find a way to sort of like find like a new lease in her career in Hollywood. While her brother is like doing her younger brother, that being Jake Gyllenhaal, is like still like is still out there acting. Like, I mean, even acting in The Bride, like which is her movie as well. Like I
yeah.
mean, like his role was pretty limited. Like he kind of plays this actor who's like in all these movies that the Frankenstein monsters like goes to see like every day. Like he kind of even sees him a bit of an idol. And at some point, the Frankenstein monster kind of meets him in ways that just make me go, "How the hell would the monster even be and the bride even be able to sneak into this?" We'll just say like very high privilege and what have you place, what have you, like essentially a dining area. Um, but even dressed up like the way they are, but yeah, like, and Jake Gyllenhaal kind of comes up as like, hey, I recognize you, kind of. All right, hey, nice to talk with you. Can you believe this guy?
So it doesn't even have any thematic meaning that he gets to meet this person that he admires. It just happens, and it's basically just like a nepo excuse to have her brother uh, charge money, basically to pay her brother. Basic. That's what's going on. Ugh.
Yeah. I mean, well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure what would be like. What was the arrangement for that? Maybe he was just like doing his sister a favor.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. He could have done it for free because
yeah.
it's like,
I
ugh,
mean, yeah. I mean,
he
Jake.
wants to be a
Yeah.
director now. Okay, I'll do it. Whatever, and he
I don't think
has
it's anything like. I don't think it's anything like that. It would just kind of be more like, it's like, yeah, sure, sis, I can be in this, while I'm doing something else,
I feel like it's her using him if he's like a good known actor, and there's literally no point at all to his character. I do feel like that's just like putting him in there just
Well,
because,
the
right?
point of his
Because
character,
yeah,
I'm sorry, like the point of his character is essentially to have it be like so that the Frankenstein monster would have like the like have like a foil the similar way of like how Arthur Fleck had Robert De Niro in Joker 2019, where like he had this idol, and at some point he kind of like hears this idol make fun of him, and then and he's just like, okay, fuck you then. And that kind of like has the monster like then just sort of essentially like go all in terms of like essentially like allowing himself to be like him and his bride to be the new Bonnie and Clyde types essentially for the rest of the movie. That's really what I mean. That's kind of what it is. But yeah. But yeah, yeah, no, this movie's definitely it's not used to this. Hold on, I have a clip here. Hold on, hold on. This will be funny. This will be funny. Where do I find it? Here we go. I have a good. Here's something. It's gonna be audio only, but it'll be funny. Well, okay, all right. Okay, so I have like a clip ready to kind of like describe what this movie kind of is like, essentially, as I think about it more. All right, this is pretty much The Bride. So just doing audio. I'm saying. I'm not used to this level of scrutiny. Did you catch that?
yeah.
I'm not used to this level of scrutiny.
because when you told me that, like even Mary Shelley is not explained at all. It's just a thing that happens. It's like, why is she in the 1930s, right? Like, what was her ghost doing this whole time?
Was she just yeah, I don't know. Was she just waiting, waiting for like a mob call girl or whoever, to like die so that she could potentially be resurrected, so that Mary Shelley could just possess her, kind
Yeah,
of, or at least share a
were
body.
all the girls not good enough up to this point in the 1930s?
Uh, I don't even
Actually,
know.
like, if you could, if someone told you, hey, we need to make, there is a chance to make a good, like, feminist somehow, right? Feminist, like Frankenstein, Bonnie and Clyde mashup thing, salad, abomination, the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Let me just
Would,
put it this way: it's not. It won't be this. It would. It ain't this. If there is a good version of that sort of concept, it ain't this. It's not what we
the
got.
thing I was going to ask is, do you think it was a good idea to put it in the 1930s? Because it's like we're not in the 1930s anymore, right? So like those things that happened back then, it's like it's not really relevant. You cannot really connect to
Yeah,
people in a
exactly. Like
modern way.
when like the suffragette movement, like from like earlier in the past, like sufficed. Like, wouldn't
Yeah,
that just
like,
be more
wouldn't
appropriate?
it be nice even if you do it in the year she dies, she comes back? Like in the 1800s.
Yeah,
Well, like I just feel like thematically that would be better, right? And you will be able to explain what the hell is up with the Frankenstein story because you're right there at the time, right? So she actually saw a monster, being created, and she maybe was the assistant, or which, by the way, I already think that taking a story and making the author in real life part of the story as a character is very. It's not necessarily bad, but it feels like a very fanboy type of idea, right?
yeah,
It feels very amateurish. It feels very like something like what a little teenager would think is interesting.
yeah. You want to know something? Like, there is like a movie that Roger Corman made that was called Frankenstein Unbound, that has the whole thing of like where Mary Shelley was a real person and she was writing the Frankenstein novel while like there's actual Frankenstein stuff happening with a monster and everything.
Hmm.
But it was like a time travel story. So it's
You have to do very absurd things, and
yeah,
and at one point, if that's not the focus of your movie, maybe it can work better, right? Because you're not just being like, oh, this person was there, which is kind of like absurd in on itself. Again, it feels very like fan fiction-ish.
yeah.
But then if you make it a small part of the story, it almost feels like when in King Ghidorah versus Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, someone is like, you can tell your kids about it someday, Sergeant Spielberg. It feels distracting. So I just don't see the point of doing that in any type of way that will actually add to the story.
I think even in Godzilla versus King Ghidorah, like that wasn't like I don't think the movie like that movie didn't I don't think that movie ever explicitly said that that was actually Steven Spielberg. That was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
a reference.
It never says Steven Spielberg, right? But they say Spielberg, and you're supposed to be like, aha, like it is like a.
I understood that reference.
Yeah, exactly. Even if it's supposed to be for laughs, which, by the way, I do like that joke. It's like a win to the audience, but that's the thing. It takes you out of the movie, right? Like you're reminded that someone wrote this. That's why if it was a comedy, I feel like you could do way better with this, right? But
To be fair, Godzilla versus King Ghidorah is in and of itself as a comedy, just not for the right reasons.
yeah. The thing is, like, yeah, I will have actually made this happen during the 800s also you can make her directly try to fix the problems with her life,
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, I died and now I'm back and now I get. So you can actually do more with the feminist thing. And then I would even say, what if you do it in the present day, right? To relate to the audience, maybe, but that's probably impossible because rich motherfuckers in Hollywood do not relate to the peasants like us, right? So probably she will actually have more of an easy time writing everything in the past, where at least she can read about it in books, than actually writing stuff to current day struggles. So yeah,
Yeah.
that doesn't surprise me. But I think that uh, there, actually, I'm gonna say it. This movie would have probably been way better if it had been in the 1800s, but yet they just didn't have the budget for all the 1800s clothes.
Right. Yeah, that's probably it.
And at that point, if she decided, okay, it's in the 1800s, but I'm going to ignore her personal life, then she just sucks,
But
right?
the
Like,
problem though, like the movie still had the budget to make it look like to have it still be a period piece, anyways. So is it just because like if we set it in the 1930s instead of the 1830s, then that'd be then that's like all the difference, not just by a century, but well, literally by a century, but mainly like because of like like for some reason that's easier to do a period piece set in the 1930s instead of the 1800s. Like it's
what
cheaper.
I think the reason why I consider it to probably be cheaper is because the 1800s, if you're trying to make like all of these clothes with fancy people and all of this, the clothes are more complicated, and probably just in that department, in the clothing and makeup, it probably will be a little bit more expensive,
Yeah,
to recreate than
yeah,
like
that's fair.
more relatively modern clothes from the 900s.
Yeah, that's fair. So yeah, I guess it's just I guess at this point it's safe to say like that this movie probably probably was just like I guess like it had to do with the fact that Maggie Gyllenhaal, like maybe it's because of the fact that Maggie Gyllenhaal has the Gyllenhaal name, which means like which has some kind, which gives her some bit of enough clout to where Warner would be like, yeah, sure, we can fund this weird movie for you.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Like, this was unmarketable from the very beginning. As a writer, it really sounds like she sucks. Like, I want to make it clear, I didn't watch the movie, but like these ideas, you just need to listen to them.
Yeah,
And
if you were to listen to the playback of the stream up to this point, yeah, I mean, it's not like
yeah,
that.
you can tell
It's
that
not
these
like that.
ideas.
It's not like that. What I've described is described in terms of what's actually in the movie would hold much sway in terms of like proving that the movie was actually worth it, it worth being made. Like, I mean, which sucks. I'd rather have something like, like it's one thing to like I guess like I'd rather have something like this that at least like was trying to do some was at least like swinging for the fences, even if it just like fails, rather than like garbage slop that you would get from like like from like Marvel or even DC as of late that pretty much only puts in the bare minimum of just like not doing a whole heck of a lot crazy but still failing, like there's always something about this movie that where it's a bit more daring, I suppose, in terms of like what it was trying to do. Even if the execution was just kind of like, yeah, hold up there, buddy.
Yeah, yeah, and to be fair, I do think that the like a feminist take on the bride would be like really good. It has like a lot of potential. It's just that you can give all the potential in the world to a pig, it's still going to roll in the mud.
Yeah, I mean, like if this movie was actually pretty good, and especially considering like I suppose like the prestige of like how well received Del Toro's Frankenstein film pretty much did. Like maybe it could have like rode off of like that in terms of that sort of bit of momentum where it's like, well, Frankenstein movies might actually still get pretty good. Maybe who knows? But like this, like if this film was good, it probably could have done. It certainly would. It probably would have done better just from that sort of momentum, but but no,
No,
it really is just the word of mouth for this movie. Like, was just not that good, and maybe just because the fact that the movie itself wasn't that good.
yeah, like basically, weak concept will always be a problem. And then when you have a weak execution or a terrible one, that just like kills it. But yeah, like I think that yeah, Del Toro will have helped a little bit, but basically that leaves us with the understanding that this movie kills any momentum that Frankenstein projects could have.
Yeah, I mean that's true. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, or at the very least, it would have to like either it kills the momentum that Frankenstein projects would have, or that there's the possibility that that Hollywood would have to like really could reconsider doing the experimental stuff, because like you have like I mean when you pretty much look back at like some of the more successful outings of like the gothic horror types or universal monster types, like I mean Nosferatu is not Universal Monsters technically, but it is an adaptation of Dracula to so in a very tangential sense it could be, it's like adjacent, which is even funny because Universal did the international distribution for Nosferatu, like outside the U.S. I mean, um, what did Nosferatu like set out to do essentially? To base it's a straightforward, it's an adaptation of of Dracula that just sticks, that retains and just sticks with the gothic horror roots of Dracula. And guess what? That movie, it did pretty well. Like, word of mouth was good, save for some weirdos here and there. Like, I won't name any names, but if you know, you know. Um, and financially, it did pretty well. So, to where Robert Eggers, it certainly secured Robert Eggers as a career filmmaker, like more than ever. So,
Well, see, I do have to say, this movie is great, but I'm sorry it's not Nosferatu, fucker.
Oh yeah. Oh god. Yeah, well that's what I say, some weirdos here and there. But yeah, like I mean like if the bride were to do have any sort of positive effect, at least like its failure were to have any positive effect to the Frankenstein IP, it would be to just encourage studios to just be like, okay, if we're gonna do a Frankenstein movie, we're just make it like more straightforward. Let's just make it like a bit more straightforward. Let's not go too crazy, conceptually speaking. Let's just make a good Frankenstein movie. Like that's like which is what Del Toro did. Like he did his own take of Frankenstein. It was good. I mean, obviously, I mean, I know some people aren't the biggest fans of it, but there's definitely a lot of people who were. I don't know how. Like, I mean, though, granted, with how that movie was released on a streaming service, it's hard to tell from analytics like how well it did. You
Yeah,
know, but like with something like, but like if it was like a film that was theatrically released and it did stay in the more safer route and not doing what this movie did or what Blumhouse seems to want to do with its take of the Mummy, then or the Wolfman, then it pretty much then there's a better chance of it being successful. Um, or may not. I don't like. I know that there was also like this Dracula movie that Luc Besson put out like back in February. Um,
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I keep forgetting that movie came out. I didn't even see it.
The
So
thing is, it came out in Europe first because I think it's a French movie, and
yes,
then it went all over other countries and the USA. So its release was really weird because, well, probably because of me, right? Because since you know me and I'm here, and for example, Cinemas and he's there. If we ever told you about it, you will have thought that it already released in the US as well, right? Because I didn't know that it had released first in the EU and so many months later in the US. So probably like the fact that confused me the most was the fact that I had seen it already, and even for me, it was like okay, I saw the trailer, then I go to the movies like 2 months later to watch something, and it's like oh, it's already gone. I
Yeah.
see the poster that they literally taken down while I'm like at the shopping center, and it was like already over, and I was like, wait, that thing came out already? You know, like it was really weird with
Yeah,
this like.
yeah. Like I never even had the chance to see it. I mean, like I was busy with other stuff, and I imagine that that movie didn't really like. I don't know how well it did over, in overseas, like in Europe, but I imagine that it didn't do very like. I don't know how well it did here in the U.S. If it even had made any sort of splash whatsoever.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm not sure either. Like, my mom wanted to watch it, and well, that sucks because we're in Portugal, so everything is in Portuguese and with English subtitles, which she doesn't speak. So I tried downloading it, you know, yo ho, yo ho, da, 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 da. And so like I got it, but it was like with these weird subtitles that were in who knows what language. That in a way kind of puts you in the mood because you assume that it's from like Romania or something like that, and it's like, oh, well, that's where Dracula comes from. So yeah, it was. It looks good, but like the criticism that I heard of it is that it's kind of bad, right? Like it's not that it was just like unique and people didn't want to watch it. It's just that no, it was actually kind of like not all that great. Like it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't good either, right?
From
So
what I heard,
you
from
want
what I
that
heard, like, I'm sorry, I forgot you.
no, it's fine.
From what I've heard, like including from Jeremy Johns, it really just kind of seemed like Lupus seemed like it was more of like a remake of Francis Ford Coppola's film Bram Stoker's Dracula more than anything. Like it was just like it's like if Luc Besson like just wanted to do his version of another director's version of Dracula.
Yeah, like stylistically, it does go on that like more romantic type of
Yeah,
direction. Yeah, that is true. That is what I saw for
yeah,
it.
yeah. So it's just like kind of derivative in that sense. But I mean, I'm curious enough to like check out. Maybe at this point, maybe that would still somehow be better than The Bride. At this point, because like it's like, hey, you're playing it safe and you're trying to base off of like a good movie. So so hey, maybe you got a chance, I guess.
Yeah,
It would just be like the worst it would be would be derivative. Like yeah, that's kind of what it would boil down to.
or maybe even irrelevant. And I think that the best that the bride can hope for is to be irrelevant, so people forget that it even exists. And that's the best we can hope for too, because that way it doesn't sabotage the Frankenstein name, right? Because
Yeah,
if it does that, then future movies will be affected. My only
yeah,
hope is that even if it's not like completely ignored and people remember it for being like really bad, that people can at least see it for what it was in Hollywood, which is the delusions of a millionaire who thought that she was a director and a writer.
yeah. Yeah. I
Just
mean, like
an ego project, yeah.
yeah. In the words of Rich Evans in RLM's Half in a Bag review on The Last Jedi, I don't think the bride. I wouldn't go as far as to call the bride terrible. It's sporadically interesting. It's kind of like
Mm, I
or
get
at least, yeah,
I
it's
see that.
yeah, but yeah, it's not good. Like that. And I guess that's probably a good way to start to kind of close out. Honestly, I thought I was gonna honestly like since nobody was like gonna be was like on here for the first hour, I was thinking like, am I gonna close this out like as the shortest stream to date? But no, thank you, Lau, for coming on so we can stretch this out to 2.5 hours.
Yeah, let's just say you suffer for this movie and I played you like a Yu-Gi-Oh card. I sacrificed you so you could watch it and somehow I found a way to bitch about it and then I end my turn.
uh, you ended up in the graveyard.
Yeah. You're in the shuttle realm.
You're in the you still like you won and you still ended up in the shadow realm. Like, how does this work? Like, what are the rules anymore?
Did you send him to the shadow realm? No, I sent him to the Philippines. No. Uh,
Oh no. Yeah, well, I mean, I mean, like I mean, like, well, hold on. What's wrong? Hold on. What's wrong with the Philippines?
I don't know. That's just a meme I found from Yu-Gi-Oh, and I always found it so random because I was also like, "What's wrong with the Philippines?" That I never forgot about it.
Yeah, I was like, isn't Haley Steinfeld half Filipina? Like from what I've heard,
I don't even know who that is.
Haley
What?
she's the no, Haley Steinfeld. She's the girl from Sinners, and she was in Bumblebee.
I don't remember. No, I don't know. I don't know. But
Okay,
it's like a really old.
all right, I'll just name. All right, I'll just like to try to. All right, well, all right, I guess we're doing this. She's okay. Okay, she's married to the Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen.
I don't watch any sports.
Fuck. Okay, hold on. Okay,
Yeah,
all
so
right. She was the girl in the 2010 remake of True Grit.
I don't even know what that is.
That's a
This is
western.
getting darker and darker for me.
It's a western. It's a western. Like that. Well, the original True Grit was a western. From like the 50s or whatever, with starring John Wayne, and there was a 2010 remake that starred that had her in that she was in. But it also starred Jeff Bridges as the John Wayne character, and it was directed by the Coen brothers.
Ah, yes, the Cohen brothers, who directed that movie. Yes, the movie, indeed.
Yeah, they made No Country. Yeah, they made Fargo and No Country for Old Men.
Okay,
Okay.
but this one that
Okay.
you're telling me
Okay.
about, because this specific actress, I still don't know who she is. But
Okay. I'm gonna. All right, okay. All right. She voices Spider Gwen in Into the Spider Verse.
Okay, now I know. Okay, yeah, yeah. She's the one that had the Miles Morales guy hit on her on camera multiple times, and she just like has
Yeah.
to like ignore him, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, that one from Sinners. Okay, she's the one that she dates. What was his name? Stack, I think, or
Dak.
Slack.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She was
Okay,
like.
okay.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And she's Kate Bishop in the Hawkeye show from Marvel.
I know you cannot see my face, but I'm not like I don't watch that type of stuff.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. There
Uh,
we go. But but you said you watched Bumblebee, right? And that's why you kind of said like it's.
Bumblebee, I did watch it. I just completely forgot that she was the one from Sinners. I was like, is she the protagonist in Bumblebee, or was she like an extra? Because
She's
when
the
you said
she's the
how
main
Filipino,
she was the main human character in Bumblebee.
now I remember, but because back then she was so young, and she was also on Lady Bird. Now that I think about it, I just completely didn't notice that she was in Sinners, right? Because she looks older now.
I don't see
And
any acting credits of her being in Lady Bird.
I'm pretty sure she was in Lady Bird.
No,
This has,
I'm not seeing it. Are you thinking someone else?
yeah, maybe I was thinking of someone else. But the thing is, when you said half Filipino, I was actually thinking of the Asian woman in Sinners, and I was like, oh, that one. And then when you said Bumblebee, I was like, wait, was that woman in Bumblebee? That's what confused me. Like I know that they were supposed to be Chinese, right? But like I don't know if she in real life, like the actor is half Filipino. Like I have no idea. So that's what confused me from the beginning. But yeah, we kind of talked about like how valuable this interpretation of Frankenstein is. How she might have been able to actually pull off the story, the themes. How they could have worked if you just focus on making it in the past.
Yeah. The problem
Yeah,
is like the way that this movie kind of did them, especially like stuffing it with other subplots, like trying to bring in like the two detectives that were like tracking down the Frankenstein monster and the bride, as well as the mob boss like wanting the bride dead because she was like the call girl who was like calling him out at the beginning of the movie for having killed a bunch of girls and cut their tongues out. And so he's all like, "How is like she's clearly not dead? So yo, hitman guy, go get her, bring her tongue back to me." Um, yeah, like if the movie just like it just overstuffed itself with too much shit to where like hardly to like where most of the things that it was trying to achieve weren't achieved necessarily.
that happens with so many movies, right? Like
I know,
it's not
right?
how it keeps happening so much. Like that's like a bad writer's main issue, overstuffing stuff.
Yeah, it's like they want to do like they have like it's like I have like so many ideas for my story. I don't know which one to do. All of them. Let's do it. Like, and then it just goes all kinds of wrong.
Yeah, hey, Mr. Producer, I have like these ideas. Which one should I do? Yes.
Yeah, it's like really, really, it pretty much would have been better if like Maggie Gyllenhaal had just slowed down and just kind of like rethought like what she actually wants to put in the movie, really, and how to like tie them together in a way that actually that's like coherent, to make that to where it comes together as a cohesive whole.
Yeah, the thing is, actors that then, she's not even like a great actress. Is she like, has she done like anything that's like, wow, holy shit? Or, by the way, like, I'm not saying once, I'm talking about like consistently. Because if she is just like an actress, and she's the girl that was on this thing that people kind of know. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, like I haven't, not that I've like watched like I don't think I've watched that many movies with Maggie Gyllenhaal in it. It's just that I mainly recognize her from The Dark Knight because that's pretty much the best movie that she was ever in.
yeah,
Yeah, and even then, it's not like she was the best actress in that movie. Like, I mean, like there were like you got like everybody like Christian Bale is it. Christian Bale, Heath Ledger, like goes without saying. Gary Oldman,
Alfred,
Michael Caine,
yeah,
Morgan
even
Freeman,
Alfred.
Aaron Eckhart, who like I mean like Heath Ledger is like incredible, like easily like the biggest standout in that movie. But like Aaron Eckhart like doesn't get enough credit as Two Face in that as Harvey Two Face. So.
Yeah, that is true too. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like when you work with a lot of great directors and stuff like that, okay, maybe you will be able to kind of learn by osmosis some things, right? If like work with them consistently and stuff like that. But like if you're like no one, basically, you're like a low tier actor that just so happens to be in some good things. It's like, did you actually think that writing was that easy because you get the roles and you just read the lines,
Yeah.
or like what's up with that? Yeah, like this feels like someone that didn't really think about it too much.
Yeah, it's like Tommy Wiseau in a way. Although, although this isn't as funny as The Room.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, like it probably
I mean, like
does.
The Room is
Probably
objectively
does
worse. I
more.
mean, I could definitely see a case be made that The Room is still objectively worse than The Bride from like a storytelling standpoint or a production acting standpoint. It's just that The Room is just obviously will have has much more of a legacy than this movie could ever hope to have,
Yeah,
even if it's for on it, even if it's out of irony. But yeah, yeah, The Bride's not good. I wouldn't really recommend it. Certainly not in the theater for it. If it's out on streaming, maybe give it, maybe, I suppose maybe. But yeah, that's it.
or option B, or well, option C, just watch the YouTube compilation
If
of
they
Christian
make,
Bale.
that's like if they make one. Like
Yeah.
again, that's if they make one. because I'm not making one. But yeah, that just kind of does it here for this stream on The Bride 2026. Closing out the stream. Thank you, Lau, for coming on, and thanks to Hoshi for saying hi for a little bit earlier, and whoever may be listening to this. But yeah, before we go, is there anything you would like to shill or recommend?
No, not this time. Like I don't really have much to say at the moment.
Okay. Well, then I guess it'll just be me who does the showing then. So, yeah, obviously, find videos on here and other streams that I'll be hosting. Next Friday, March the 20th, I believe. Yeah, March the 20th will be the next live stream. That will, and it'll be on some Rubits, certain Rubits, or at least a video about certain Rubits. One certain Rubit, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, just bear with me on that. As far as like projects that I have in the works, I'm still working on my Dark of the Moon video. I'm still working on scripting. I want to make sure it's like, solid. I got a lot to cover. I got a lot to say about it, about the movie. But yeah, maybe even give it maybe give it like a rewatch through, again, just a real I let things marinate, really, what have you. I want to do it right. I want to make it a real good Longman for y'all. That's what she said. But yeah, follow me on here for any updates about projects and streams, what have you. Follow me on Twitter at ZMonster for more or less the same thing, or other things. But yeah, thank you guys for watching or listening. See y'all later. Goodbye.
I